of what the organization has been able to achieve with your support over the last year, and a preview of our work in the year ahead. And we'll also be hearing this evening from candidates for our board of directors as part of our board member candidate forum. Before I get started, just a few items of housekeeping. There are exits to this auditorium in the rear and right beside me. Restrooms are back out in the lobby, behind the staircase, kind of opposite on the side of the lobby. Just to say a huge thank you to UCSF and the UCSF Mission Bay facilities folks for letting us have this space for free and for hosting us tonight. I feel like I'm back in college giving a presentation, and it certainly is fancier than some of the other venues we've had meetings like this at past, but I'm not going to complain. Oh, and one final reminder from our friends. Yes, thank you, UCSF. They are also supporters of our work and encouraging their staff and their students to bike on campus. UCSF does ask that you refrain from eating or drinking in the auditorium, so please no food or drink. Great, so before we get started and I do some of the bits that I'm excited about, like introducing some of our new staff and giving a preview of our advocacy and program work, I do want to begin by reviewing our San Francisco Bicycle Coalition community agreements. And if you RSVP'd for this event on Eventbrite with your ticket, you were asked to affirm this. And here's why we are asking folks in this space to agree to these set of values, that we really are striving to create a positive and supportive environment where all people feel welcomed, seen, and celebrated and treated equitably. And that's in line with our strategic plan, core values, and as a membership organization that does strive to be welcoming to as many people as possible. So I'm going to read these out. These are our expectations of staff, of our board, of our members, interns and volunteers, and visitors in any event that we have. So we approach each other with empathy and care. We ask for and use each other's pronouns. Mine are he, him, his, by the way. We respect every person's autonomy by seeking consent before physical contact and offering before we help or explain. We take responsibility for our own participation and create space for the participation of others. We are aware of the impact of our words and actions, and that good intentions can sometimes have negative impacts. Microaggressions, including unintended ones, are harmful, and we seek to eliminate them. We let someone know when we have been hurt, and we try to forgive. We do our best to fulfill these agreements, and we hold one another accountable to fulfilling them, and we work to correct mistakes. So if you have questions about this or feedback, please feel free to email us at any time. But if you see someone that's violating these agreements in any way, please see a staff person. We're happy to have a conversation about that. Again, the goal here is to make sure this space is a welcoming and safe environment for everyone who wants to participate. And on that note, I see many familiar faces in this room, but I also see some new faces. If you wouldn't mind, if this is your first time at an annual member meeting, would you raise your hand so I can get a sense of, great. I love to see so many new faces in the room. Thank you. And I hope some of you have been longtime members, but if you just joined within the last year, can you raise your hand? Fantastic. Welcome, and thank you for being members. Great. So this organization is growing and changing in lots of exciting ways. And one of those ways is we have added some staff in the past year. And I want to use this opportunity to get those faces and names familiar to you as members. As staff, we support the work of the organization to achieve our mission and our strategic plan goals and objectives. And we have a paid full-time professional staff to help us towards those ends, in addition to our volunteers, our members, who are so engaged and key to our success. So I'm going to introduce these folks one by one and ask them to stand up and do a little wave as I say their name. First is Adam Camo, our development director. Hi, Adam. Next up, we've got Dave Gager, our program coordinator, who is doing work with youth and families in our Safe Routes to School program. Our brand new communications and marketing director, Melissa Lewis, is here. Our new development associate, Whitney Liebenau. Hey, Whitney. Chris Liu, our program coordinator, who is in charge of our Valet bike parking program. Eliana could not be here tonight. She's not feeling well, but Eliana Marcus Tyler is on staff and leads our work on adult bicycle education, which we'll be hearing more about soon. And then finally, Darren Newell, program coordinator, who helped organize our huge victory on Market Street, which we will also be talking about. So before I introduce Janice to talk about some of our advocacy wins over the past year, and then we'll hear from Chris and our program team and our membership and development staff. This was a big year in a lot of ways, and Market Street is part of that. But I think what you'll hear is that it goes beyond Market Street, that Market Street was a signal victory in our advocacy work to transform San Francisco streets into safe, just, and livable places by promoting the bicycle for everyday transportation. And in a week's time, on January 29th, we will be standing at the foot of Market Street in Embarcadero Plaza with Mayor Breed and others, and hopefully some of our members, if you can make it in the middle of the day. I realize many of you work. To celebrate that space becoming car-free permanently. This is a dream that I think many of us who have biked in the city for years have held, and we're going to make sure that not only does it become reality, but that when Market Street goes car-free, that we are continually seeking input and feedback to make sure that the city is doing its part to uphold what that means in terms of infrastructure and enforcement and operations. So Market Street certainly was one of the highlights of the past year, and we'll hear more from Janice on all of the other advocacy victories that we were able to celebrate across the city and what's coming in 2020. But I also want to emphasize that, for me, the work of our programs, our education, our Bike It Forward program that repairs and distributes bikes to folks who otherwise wouldn't have access, our valet bike parking program that allows people to have safe, secure bike parking. Those pieces that break down the barriers that people experience to biking in our city are just as important, because without growing the number of people who bike and the number of people who see themselves as people who bike, who feel like it's safe, who feel like there are people like them who ride, we aren't going to get much further than we've gotten already. That to have a true sea change in how San Francisco thinks about transportation, in how we view as a city the bicycle as a key part to a sustainable mix of transportation options, including walking, including transit. We have to be able to say that biking is for everybody, and that all types of people in our city, no matter your income, your race, your family status, your geographic background, that you bike too. And the work of our programs, I think, are so inspirational in helping to break down those barriers and grow the number and types of people who see themselves as people who bike. So to me, these two things work hand in hand. And in fact, if we want to continue the advocacy victories and wins across our city, we have to be growing that other side. And for people in other neighborhoods that aren't just in the core of the city, for folks who are older and younger, for people with families, we need to be doing that work on education, on actually distributing bikes, and we need to be doing it in a way that's culturally competent and in the language that people speak. So I'm really excited to hear from some of our staff to report on what we've been up to and what's in the year ahead. And to start us off, I'm going to bring up our advocacy director, Janice Lee.
Hello, everyone. So I only have about 5 minutes to talk, and I can't tell you how much stuff that has happened in the last year, how it totally can't fit in 5 minutes. So this is definitely like the too long didn't read version of what's happened in 2019. But with all that said, I'm now entering my 7th year on staff here, and this has really been a privilege to work for this organization. I moved here for this job, planned to move to San Francisco, and the amount that I've really learned from the SF Bicycle Coalition, all the people I've met, has been really, really incredible. So I just want to say thank you all for being here, and let's dive right in. So if you were there on Bike to Work Day last year, we had the very, very exciting announcement from Mayor London Breed that she was going to be committing and really directing city staff to build 20 miles of brand new protected bike lane in 2 years. That was a really incredible announcement. It was exciting that for her first Bike to Work Day as mayor, this was really what she led with. And so that has created a lot of new urgency. Now, is 20 miles of protected bike lane enough? No, but it has created a lot of new urgency and sort of lit a fire under a lot of SFMTA planners to really start delivering. So we're hard at work, getting every single inch we possibly can. So one of the big things that happened last year was, if you recall, back in March of last year, it was the only bicycle fatality that occurred in 2019. There was a woman hit and killed while biking on Howard Street, where it is just a basic bike lane, but it was literally just 100 feet away from where that protected bike lane begins. We realized we needed urgent change. We had a lot of really excellent support from new Supervisor Matt Haney. But one of the most, monumental things that happened last year was actually getting streamlining for protected bike lane projects. This new sort of bureaucratic process is a little bit weird and technical, but ultimately became what we call quick builds, or the quick build process. This lets us get protected bike lanes in the ground faster than ever before. So we have some highlights here. So the main thing is that we don't have to go to SFMTA board when we want to upgrade a bike lane to become a protected bike lane. Who here has gone to SFMTA board meeting? Yeah, so you probably took time off in your day, you had to move around your schedule, you maybe had to bring your kid, or you had to work out some childcare so that you could attend that meeting, just so you could have 2 minutes of time to give public comment. So no longer. In the top left, this is from the most recent quick build public hearing open house for 7th Street project and for Howard Street. And you can give your public comment in person at, this was held in an evening at Bessie Carmichael Elementary School, to folks who will record your public comment. And there are folks who are translating in multiple languages there with the SFMTA, which is incredible and far more accessible for people to be able to engage if they have feelings around protected bike lanes. And then we can see what was the fastest protected bike lane go in the ground that I've ever seen. So some of you actually might have rode this today, but it was a section of 7th Street that is like Townsend to 16th, which really creates that connection out here to Mission Bay and obviously the Chase Center and so many things being built out over here in Mission Bay. That connection is more and more urgent than ever. So that bike lane got approved and it went in the ground in like 2 weeks' time or something like that. It was really, really incredible to see that progress. And that's one of the ways that we're going to get to that 20 miles of new protected bike lane in 2 years. The next thing is that we had yet another record-breaking year. So in 2018, we had over 5 miles of brand new protected bike lane go in the ground. And last year, we beat that yet again with 6 miles of brand new protected bike lanes. And if you do the math, if we're trying to get to 20 miles by May 2021, I look forward to breaking this record again in 2020. But some of the highlights here, this is Valencia in the top left. No. Wait, no. What is? Like no, sorry. It's 7th Street. Sorry. It's 7th Street in the top left. Valencia Street is, It's 7th, it's Townsend, it's Valencia, and 5th. And we saw all those bike lanes go in the ground. I remember when Green Sharrows went in on 5th Street, and that was a safety project. So that's cool, and now we're getting protected bike lanes. And this was a near-term implementation of a really much larger full streetscape project. I want to, in particular, for Valencia Street, give a lot of props to our community organizer, Kristen Leckie. If you've not talked to them before, they're an incredible community organizer who's led the way on Valencia, who's done a really incredible amount of work, and we're really excited to see the southern portion move forward. There's going to be it's going to be a quick build project. So there's going to be a joint public hearing open house coming your way in mid-ish February. That'll get that protected bike lane treatment from 19th to Cesar Chavez. And we continue to really be pushing on the 15th to 19th section because we know that that's where it sucks. Cool. And then, as Brian and Ray mentioned, 10 years in the making, and that's like 10 years of like official like committees and public open houses. We finally approved Better Market Street on October 15th, which is just really, really incredible. I think that this might be one of the biggest, bike projects I'll ever work on in my life, and it certainly is the biggest one I've gotten the privilege of working on here at the SF Bicycle Coalition. A lot of that work, and next slide I'll talk about him, is Charles, but that's something that Darren really worked on, and these photos, I think all of these these two photos are from the rally that we held on the morning of October 15th as we all went upstairs to go make public comment. So who here made public comment or wrote a letter for Market Street? Thank you so much. We really hit the streets. I mean, Darren was out there, I think, how many, like just dozens of mornings, dozen PM commute times, really engaging people on the street. We were able to get so many new people who had never known about the bike coalition or didn't know about the project out there. I see Paul Valdez. I know you were one of the many members who actually volunteered their time to talk to people on the ground. So you're going to start seeing a lot of those improvements come online. One of them in particular that I'm personally really excited about. So if you can recognize this in the bottom right, that is Page Street. So if you're flying down Page Street in the morning and you're connecting to Market Street where that old Honda dealership used to be, and then on the right hand side that's like Ja Valencia Cafe and Market Street Cycles, this little slip lane will be totally closed off to cars and only for you as a bicyclist. Another one that I'm really excited about is that if you're coming down Upper Market Street going inbound, if you're passing Valencia, a lot of times you're trying to go straight down Market Street, and a lot of cars are trying to turn right onto Valencia Street. It's what I do in the morning. Cars will no longer be allowed to turn right onto Valencia, ending those conflicts, and they're going to put a lot of posts there, so it makes it really difficult for cars to physically make that right turn. So while we're excited about the traffic diversions and getting cars off market, these improvements are going to really make your commute better. Okay, I have to go a little bit quicker. I already called out Paul. We become the first California state to actually tax Uber and Lyft. Oh my gosh. I have to say, I didn't think this was going to pass, so the fact that it did, and we're going to be getting like $30 to $35 million a year from these companies. I'm going to tell you a little secret. What I'm actually most thrilled about is that because of this tax, this might be the best way we get real comprehensive data on the kinds of trips that Uber and Lyft are making in our city. So think about it, because they have to charge based on trips that start, like passengers that they pick up in San Francisco, and they have to charge based on 3.25% of how much that ride costs. So this might be the best way we get really good data about the negative impact and the congestion that Uber and Lyft is putting on our streets. So a little nugget of excitement there. And then the last thing is that we've had a lot of transition and change on the advocacy team. We said farewell to Charles, who was on staff for 4 years. He was actually an intern I hired when he was still a junior in college. And then he came back to do bike parking. He came back to help me on the 2016 campaigns, that election. And obviously he was a big lead for winning Market Street last year. He's now working at the SF Homeless Outreach Team, doing something that he's always been really passionate about, really helping our city's most marginalized folks. And then the other person who also left staff this past year was Andy Gonzalez Cabrera, who was leading a lot of our work in the Mission, then Bayview, Hunters Point, Excelsior, Outer Mission, and they left staff sometime around the summer. And so we did have a lot of staff transition. I'm really excited that we'll be introducing a new full-time community organizer. Her name is Claire Amabline. You might know her. She worked at SOMCAN, and she was the pedestrian safety coordinator. She worked on Folsom Howard Street skate project. She's born and raised in Tenderloin, and so I'm really excited to soon be introducing Claire to all of you and bring her on board so that we now will have a new lead for our Soma and Tenderloin work. So lots more. I'm going to be sticking around after this. As always, email me at janice@sfbike.org. But thanks so much. I'm going to bring up Christopher White, who is our program director, and talk a little bit about the program highlights.
Thanks so much, Janice, and thank you all so much for being here today. Our programmatic work is very often aimed at people who are not our members, and yet I know that our members so appreciate the work that the programmatic team is doing to expand our membership. It's been a year of real growth and evolution on the program team, including 4 new staff people in 2019, and also saying goodbye to Nancy Buffum, who was for many years our youth and family program manager. So we wish Nancy the best, but we're also really excited about the progress that we've been making over the past year. So to go through each of our programs a little bit, to partially just help remind you all the programmatic work that we do, starting off with adult bicycle education. This is work that we do to educate people all over San Francisco from all kinds of backgrounds about how to safely bike in San Francisco. And we this year we were able to teach 1,500 people in San Francisco in 2019, which is really exciting. Again, that's across the entire city. We also started a new contract with the SFMTA, which gave us the opportunity to revamp our curriculum. Some of the effects of that, for example, are creating more accessible on-bike classes. Our on-bike classes used to be very long, which was a real barrier to people who couldn't take that much time to attend a class. Now they're shorter and sort of more chunked out in a progression, and people are really able to access them more, and we've seen a big uptick in people attending those classes. We've also introduced new classes such as on-bike practice for beginning adult cyclists, which is a way for people who have just learned how to ride to build up their skills before they feel confident riding on roads. And also a new multimodal class, which is sharing city streets, which is getting people who predominantly bike and people who predominantly take transit and people who predominantly drive all together in a room and talk about how to make the streets safer together by collaborating with each other. We've hired a new roster of multilingual instructors over the past year and also added to our portfolio of languages Filipino or Tagalog, which we're really excited about. We taught our first class in Tagalog this past November. And just as an example of the effect that these classes are having on people who bike in San Francisco, 32% of people who have taken one of our classes report biking more 6 weeks after they took the class. So that's really exciting. Our Valet bicycle parking program, how many people are using it tonight? Excellent. In 2019, we parked over 10,000 bikes in San Francisco, which is a huge number. And as many of you know, just around the block, the Chase Center opened, and your San Francisco Bicycle Coalition is providing valet bike parking at every event at that venue, as well as providing valet bike parking at all Giants games, every Presidio picnic, and lots of other recurring events around the city. Many of you might not know that we have a professional driver training program, but it is very active. This year we had a couple of really exciting things happen. We started a partnership with Golden Gate Transit to teach every one of their transit drivers how to safely drive around people on bikes and bike infrastructure. I have taught 4 separate workshops up there and also produced a video with them so that everybody who drives for them gets really good education about how to keep people on bikes safe on our streets. And also we've been focusing on commuter shuttle drivers to make sure that people driving for Google or for Salesforce or any of the big corporations in the city, that their drivers are really setting the tone for safety on our streets. And that included teaching over 300 bus drivers for Google this year. Our youth and family biking program continues to grow. We had our biggest ever Bike Enroll to School week this past April with over 100 schools in San Francisco participating and over 6,000 students participating that week. We're really excited for Bike Enroll to School week this year, which will be April 20th to 24th. So if you have students in the school system, please make sure to mark your calendars. The Safe Routes to School partnership, which we're incredibly involved in, along with a lot of our city partners and nonprofit partners, such as at Walk SF, we have expanded our focus this year a huge amount so that we're covering all 103 SFUSD schools Just by point of comparison, in 2018, we were really in about 32 schools in the city. So that is a huge expansion this year. And in 2019, approximately 1,500 children and their parents and caregivers were reached through our workshops and events through both Safe Routes to School and our own youth and family biking programming. Finally, Bike It Forward. This might also be a program that doesn't sound familiar to you because in the past this was called Community Bike Builds. And this year we rebranded the program to Bike It Forward to really rebrand the program to reflect a refocused vision towards not just providing bikes to people who might not have access to them otherwise, but also working to build community and to really, in a grassroots way, build a bike movement with the people who participate in that program. And in 2019, we gave away over 200 bikes, including over 50 at an annual event that happens in the Bayview every year, organized by Be Magic, which is a annual back-to-school backpack giveaway, and now they really incorporate a Bike It Forward programming into everything that they do. And that everybody who receives a bike through the program also receives helmet locks and lights, as well as education about how to safely use their bikes in the city. And finally, all of the bikes that get repaired and given away, you might not know this, these are largely repaired by Joanne, who is our program coordinator who runs this program, but also largely by volunteers. She's got a really committed group of volunteers who come every week to our bike shop in the Bayview to help out with community repair nights. And if you're interested in getting involved with that, if you have a little, even just a little bit of bike mechanic skills, we can definitely put you to work. So please find out about that on our website. And finally, we've just gotten a lot of really good coverage of the Bike It Forward program in 2019. So we would like to share with you a video that was created by SF Gov TV, the SF government's, city government's own sort of online TV station. And they created a short video about the Bike It Forward program when it was still called Community Bike Builds. And so I'm going to share that with you now.
The Bicycle Coalition was giving away 30 free bicycles. So I applied, and I was happy to receive one of them.
The Community Bike Build program is San Francisco Bicycle Coalition's way of kind of spreading the joy of biking and the freedom of biking to residents in the city who may otherwise not have access to bicycles or access to affordable transportation. The city has an ordinance that we worked with them on back in 2014 that requires city agencies to give organizations like the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition a chance to take bicycles that have been abandoned, refurbish them, and then put them to good use or find new homes for them. The partnerships that we have with organizations, generally it's with organizations that are working with low-income individuals or families or people who are transportation dependent. We ask them to identify individuals who would greatly benefit from a bicycle. We kind of make a list of people and their heights and try to match them to a bicycle that would kind of suit their lifestyle and their age and their height.
The bicycle I have received have impacted my life so greatly. It's not only a form of recreation, it's also a means of getting connected with the community through bike rides, and it's also just a feeling of freedom, and I really appreciate it. I'm very thankful.
We teach a class. Every recipient has to attend a 1-hour urban education class because safety is so important. Things like how to change lanes, how to make a left turn, a right turn, how to essentially ride around cars. And after that class, then we would kind of give everyone the chance to test ride a bike. We expect that the people using our bicycles aren't necessarily using them just for recreation, but also as a way to get around the city safely. just the joy of like seeing people just test ride their bicycles in the small area that we were in. There's like no real word. I guess enjoyable is a word I could use, but that really doesn't describe the kind of warm feelings you feel in your heart, kind of giving someone that sense of freedom. And maybe they hadn't ridden a bike in years because these folks were just a little bit older than maybe the normal crowd of people that we give bicycles away to. Just to have everyone be like, take my picture on my bike, you know, that was a really great experience. There were just smiles all around, volunteers, the recipients, myself, my supervisor. So it was just a big crowd, and everyone was just happy to be a part of this very joyous occasion. And then at the end, we normally do kind of a group ride, and just to see people ride off with these huge smiles on their faces, it's a great experience. So if someone's interested in volunteering, we have a special section on our website. If you go to sfbike.org/volunteer, you can sign up to volunteer for both a community bike build event and community repair night. Since about 2015, we've given away about 855 bicycles, a total of 376 last year. So we're definitely growing each and every year. I'm hoping to top that 376 this year. We frequently do events here in Bayview. Our space is here in Bayview, and we'd like for this to be a resource for people in the community to come and maybe work on their own bikes or learn some skills, and then also give them access to something that they may not have had access to before, which is bicycles.
Yeah, for me, it's just bike riding is a fun way to like get outside and be active, because most of the time my kids my age will stay in the house, play video games or something. It's just like a fun way to do something.
You get like fresh air, you don't just stay in the house doing nothing all day. And it's like a good way to exercise.
The Bicycle Coalition has a bicycle program for every community in San Francisco. It's connecting the young, the older community. It's just a wonderful outlet for the community to come together and have some good, clean fun. It's opened so many doors to the young people that we usually, might not have a bicycle. I've seen them obtain bicycles as well, and they are very thankful, and I'm just so thankful for this program.
Thanks so much, and I just want to say I'm so proud of this video and so proud of our team. They do really incredible work, and I'm really grateful to all of you because it's really all of you that power all of our programs, but particularly the Bike It Forward program is largely funded through the membership dues that people pay and the support of our members. So thank you very much. And with that, I want to introduce Adam Camo, who is our development director, and is going to talk a little bit about membership.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about the backbone of our community, which is you, our members. So first I'd like to say thank you to all of you. Whether you are a first-time member or you are a long-time member, we truly could not do this work without your dedication and support. So as some of you may know, one of our goals in our strategic plan is to grow, diversify, and increase our membership to over 12,000 members by the end of 2022. Last year, we saw a 10% increase in our membership. The single most successful day was Bike to Work Day. We had a 7% increase over the year before. We resulted in 1,300 new and renewing members on that day alone. With Bike to Work Day fast approaching in May, we anticipate another successful day, taking us closer to 11,000 members. So we have lots of members, right? But who are they? Through our member survey, we know that 52% of our members ride their bikes on a daily basis. 41% of our members ride a micro mobility or bike shares to get around the city. And 37% of you use your bikes on a recreational basis. As far as some demographics go, we know that our members are average to be a white man around the age of 44. We are a majority white and majority male organization. While that's not the diversity we're aiming for, there are a few new trends that are making us feel good about our membership base. 20% of our members identify as LGBTQ, while the city average is at 15%. And although we're at our lowest percentage of women members right now, we have 35% of our members are women, while the average of women who ride in our city is 30%. So we need to continue to make diversity a priority so our membership reflects all San Franciscans and we can achieve our goal of making biking fun and accessible for all. We cannot do this alone, so we need your help. And I'm going to invite Christopher Bannister up so he can talk about how you can get involved in some of our other work.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you everybody for being here today. Your support and dedication is truly appreciated. So before I begin, just a show of hands, how many of you have volunteered with us at the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition before? Wow, that is fantastic. Everybody look around. That is great. Thank you so much. Our volunteers are the bloodline and lifeline of our work. We would not be able to do what we do today without all of your help and your support. So as Adam mentioned, in the year 2019, we saw a 10% increase in our membership. And as we know from past surveys and past experiences, the best way to grow our membership is through word of mouth and visibility, which our volunteer program is designed and aimed to do. So for the next couple minutes, I'm just going to give a quick recap of our successes from our volunteer program in 2019, what we look forward to in 2020, and how you can get involved and continue to expand our membership in the new year. So 2019 brought forth many volunteer opportunities, from our weekly community repair nights to our monthly volunteer nights to, again, our record-breaking Bike to Work Day. All of the work that we've done has again been because of all of you. So to give you a little bit of breakdown of what we saw in 2019, we trained approximately 168 bicycle ambassadors, recruited 835 volunteers, and put back over 8,500 hours into our community through the volunteer program, which is a huge feat, and I'd love for all of you to give yourself a round of applause. And although recruiting 835 volunteers in 1 year is not an easy feat, our strategic goal does call for us to recruit approximately 1,000 volunteers each and every year. With this, we'll be able to hopefully reach our goal of 12,000 members by the year 2022. Other ways that you can get involved and make sure to assist us in our membership expansion is by becoming a trained bicycle ambassador. Just show of hands, who here has attended a bicycle ambassador training before? Awesome, oh my gosh, this is so many people. Well, that's awesome. For any of those people who have yet to attend a bicycle ambassador training, who would love to assist us, our next training is actually next week on Thursday in our office at 1720 Market Street from 5:30 to 7. I highly encourage you to attend one of these trainings. We would not be able to educate the public on who we are and what we do without the assistance of our bicycle ambassadors. Other ways you can get involved are in different aspects of our work. Advocacy, as Chris White mentioned, our Bike It Forward events, Sunday Streets, our seasonal Light Up the Night campaigns, our internship programs, and all different aspects of our work. And finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't plug in our Bike to Work Day date. So one of the biggest ways you can also get involved is to sign up for our Bike to Work Day signups. Signups will be opening next month, so please, I highly encourage all of you to sign up and to help us beat our 1,300 goal that we had in 2019. And with that, I'm going to invite Brian to wrap it up and answer any questions you may have.
Okay. So I know that a lot of you are here to hear more from our board candidates, and we'll get to that in a bit. But before we do that, I want to open it up to questions from you, our membership. And as we reflected back in our community agreements, I know there are a lot of folks who have been to these meetings before, and maybe you've had an opportunity to ask a question at a meeting like this before. I would invite you to make sure that there's space for folks who are new and maybe who haven't been in this kind of a venue before to ask questions that are on their minds as well. So I'm going to do this as fairly as I can. If you have a question, raise your hand. Chris and Adam are going to help me out with the microphones. And I'll do my best to answer any questions. I may pull Janice or some other folks up here to help me out. But let's give it a shot. Who's got one? Okay, yes, right there. We'll go down first there, and then you right there. So 1 and 2, yes.
I have a question about bicycle theft.
Yes.
To me, safety and theft are the two biggest issues, and I feel like the Bike Coalition could be, really ramping up on both sides. But I know there's a lot of safety stuff that's great in bike lanes and protected bike lanes, but theft-wise, I feel like, I work with some people here in the city and other organizations that are concerned with, Vision Zero, and I know you guys are concerned with Vision Zero. And if the city's trying to get everybody out of cars and walking and biking, it seems that bike theft is something that is just not being addressed by the city, by the police, or by the Bike Coalition. So I'd love to see, what you guys are planning on doing to, make that happen more.
Sure, great. So as you pointed out, you pointed out two things: safety and theft. Far and away, when we hear from people who are members or just the general public, and we ask them why you don't ride a bike in the city, safety is the number one thing. But theft is on that list, either because someone's had their bicycle stolen or they have a fear of having their bike stolen. And when it comes to bike theft, I think there are kind of two big pieces. And the first is preventing theft in the first place. So making sure that there are safe and secure places to park a bike. And that extends to sidewalk racks, which are better than a tree or a post or something, or a chain link fence, because they're designed for a bike to be parked at. But it's also ensuring that there is safe and secure indoor bike parking and attended bike parking where possible. So there are goals and objectives in our strategic plan around increasing bike parking, and certainly you've heard about our Valet bike parking program, where we can, making sure that you have somebody to hand your bike off to. Education is also part of that, so we have a lot of resources on our website about proper locking technique. A lot of times when I talk to somebody who unfortunately has lost their bike, some education on better locking could have possibly prevented that. But I don't want to blame the victims of theft, but to note that prevention can be one of the best ways to address bike theft. When it comes to enforcement of theft, I do want to share that the city did report that in the past year, 2019, property crimes, including bicycle theft, have decreased in San Francisco over last year, and they're still too high. So while there has been some impact, we know those numbers are still too high. On the enforcement side, I want to note that when we talk about criminal justice and theft enforcement, we want to make sure, and we need to make sure, that law enforcement is handled in a way that is free of bias, that is just and fair, and to recognize that many communities in our city do approach their experience with law enforcement with distrust. That being said, we did support the establishment of neighborhood property crime units in each district SFPD police station. So everywhere across the city right now, whether it's Mission Station, Ingleside Station, Bayview Station, each of those stations has a property crime unit assigned to it, and bike theft is part of that focus. And I think that's a recognition that bike theft looks different in different parts of our cities. That in our downtown core, you see a lot more crimes of opportunity, where people are stealing bikes parked on the street. And in more of our residential neighborhoods, we're dealing with burglary and crimes that resemble more of an organized approach. And then the final piece of this, it's also in our strategic plan, is the reestablishment citywide of what's called a general crimes unit. And as part of that, a focus on bike theft. What is so frustrating when it comes to recovering a bike that's been stolen, for instance, is that we know that bikes that are stolen in San Francisco end up in other places very, very fast and very quickly. And we have to ask law enforcement here locally to coordinate with agencies in the 9-county Bay Area and sometimes beyond. So recovery can be challenged if a city agency doesn't have the resources to coordinate with those other agencies. So we've supported the establishment of that general crimes unit that's central in SFPD, and we'll continue to work with the police department to make sure that enforcement of bike theft is a priority. But understand it's a problem. It is a tough problem to solve. I just want to acknowledge that I don't think there is one easy solution that brings about an end to it. So happy to talk more after this and follow up on specific bits of that. But that's an overview of what we're doing to address theft. Yeah. Yes, right there. Adam's got a microphone.
So I am curious. I'm Chris Sanders, and
Hi, Chris.
I'm a relatively new member since like October, November. In any case, I was concerned about, you know, like I travel across the bay, back and forth, you know, to work and all around the city, and so I was concerned about the fact that, you know, there doesn't seem to be like a network in the Bay of bike lanes in the Bay Area in general. So that would make it easier for more people to bike. And I was wondering if you all were doing anything to like partner up with some of the organizations in other cities in the Bay Area to, you know, because I feel like, you know, if you increase the numbers in the other areas too, you also end up creating more political pressure to have increased bike lanes, you know, in San Francisco as well.
That's a great question. Thanks, Chris. So first of all, yes, we do work regionally with our advocacy partners at Bike East Bay, Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, and the bike advocacy organizations in Marin, Sonoma, and Napa County. When we think about our work regionally, because most of it is just how we've grown regionally, most of it is focused here in San Francisco. These are local issues that people care about in their neighborhood, but also recognizing that increasingly the city is becoming less affordable. People are having to commute further and further to make it to jobs, and where people can afford to live and where they have to work, those distances are growing. So a few things when we think about what it takes regionally to make biking possible, either from East Bay, South Bay, North Bay into San Francisco. The first is really transit and making sure that on BART and on Caltrain and on our ferries, there is capacity for bikes, both on board, but also secure bike parking at stations and bike share stations at each of those stations to make first and last mile trips easier to combine with transit. And I think that advocacy has been consistent and has resulted in solid victories throughout the years on BART, on Caltrain, and on ferries. When we talk and step back and think about what does a regional bike network look like, what does a regional active transportation network look like, I don't think we can have that conversation without the western span of the Bay Bridge. And making sure that that path and getting it built is central to our core objective. So we are having these conversations. You may have read in the paper there are folks talking about a regional, what's called a mega measure that would raise billions of dollars regionally for transportation. And what we have said to stakeholders like MTC and other people around the Bay is you can't talk about a regional bike network without that path. It is the key connector that is missing right now in order to be able to bike. And you know, for people who think that that distance is long, I think we're seeing e-bikes and e-assist bikes change that equation and break down so many barriers to make that commute trip possible back and forth across the Bay. Yeah.
I wanted to piggyback on that. Are you all like? Is there a way to maybe partner with like, you know, corporations or somehow get them to, you know, help fund it? Or
well, yeah, it's got to get paid for some way, and that's the big barrier right now. We're looking at a price tag for the completed plans of around $350 million, which is would make it probably the single most expensive bike and pedestrian project in the country. But it takes a lot of money to retrofit a cantilevered path off of a 70-year-old plus bridge without disrupting all the other things that that bridge needs to carry. So the options on the table, you know, certainly part of this regional funding mega measure. There are some people regionally who are talking about private public partnerships to help fund the path, but we're going to have to raise that money probably from a variety of sources. So yeah. Okay, other questions, raise your hand. Let's go, I think I saw you first, and then this person right here toward the front. Yeah.
Hey, my name's Mark.
Hey.
This is anecdotal, but I noticed that a lot of companies' commuter benefits kind of leave bikes to the wayside. And I'm wondering if you have any examples or ways of reaching out to companies to show them how to do that right.
Well, thank you for that question. We know that where you work and your commute trip is a huge part of what makes it possible or not to bike in the city and other places. And I think this is a great place to plug our business membership program. So we do work with businesses and companies and nonprofits and corporations and public-private, we're not discriminating. UCSF, Mission Bay, and the UCSF system, UCSF being one of them, to not only support our advocacy work, but to make sure that those companies are building out facilities like secure bike parking, like locker rooms and showers for people who have to commute longer distances. What it takes to make that happen often are people like you speaking up and connecting us to people within those companies. So if you work somewhere where you don't feel like the resources are there to get other people comfortable biking, whether that's parking, and usually it's parking, or it's access, or it's safe routes around where you work, we are happy to meet with folks, representatives. Sometimes it's human resources. Depending on where you work, you might be big enough that there's actually people within your company that do transportation planning as part of their job. We talk with those types of people, but people that work on policy or public affairs, we're happy to sit down and have those conversations and work with you as an internal workplace advocate to help realize benefits. We do classes as well. We'll come in and teach a class at a workplace on how to bike commute. We'll help you set up a bike buddy program. So if there's people already biking in your workplace, we know the number one way to get somebody to ride is to have a partner on the road with them. It really alleviates a lot of those fears and anxiety that folks have around planning a commute, how to park, that sort of thing. So there are lots of resources available. It's part of our work, and I would encourage you to talk to either Adam or Whitney afterwards about how we can connect maybe with your workplace or a workplace you know about. Yeah, great, okay. And then down in front, please, and Chris is coming with the mic.
Hi, my name is Zach. I live out near Ocean View. I know there's a lot of bike infrastructure improvements going in the northeast quadrant of the city, which is great because there's a lot of density and jobs there. I use that sometimes to commute. I'm wondering what's in the works for the south and west sides of the city. And it might be interesting to try kind of creative solutions like parking protected bike lanes or kind of heavily traffic calmed bike boulevards, short of kind of the kind of first class protected lanes that we're getting in the northeast.
Yeah, I'll invite Janice up in a second to talk a little bit more about our southern and western neighborhoods, but you said you live near Oceanside?
Ocean View.
Ocean View,
So
okay. Ocean
just
View.
west of Balboa Park.
Yep. We're doing work in that neighborhood and around Balboa Park, but I would say if I'm thinking about your part of the city, the first place to start is Alamany Boulevard, and I think we can win protected bike lanes in Alamany Boulevard. When we look at neighborhood streets that function as freeways in our city, where people speed in excess of speeds that are safe, Alamany is one that comes to mind. And when you combine that with pavement condition and other issues on that street, it's no coincidence that someone was hit and killed there within the past 2 or 3 years. Alamany is on our radar. We've been working with Supervisor Safai, who represents a lot of that chunk of that street, to try to get some funding and some political will, and would love to talk to you, I know, and other folks who live in your neighborhood about how we can pool our membership and the voices to show decision makers and that there are people who bike in those neighborhoods and they do care about safety. Janice, do you want anything else about kind of southern and western neighborhood projects? Great.
Yeah, thanks, Zach, for your question. I know you've emailed about this, you've emailed about, I think, like bike share out in D7 as well. So let me tell you a couple things that are happening. I would say that for a lot of our work that happens in the outer neighborhoods, we really focus on talking directly to those members who live out there, because those are a lot more particular neighborhood-centric streets versus, say, a Market or Valencia, where you have like thousands upon thousands of people biking there every single day. We want to really make sure that when we're doing work, say, in the Bayview, that we really have folks who are living in the Bayview engaged in those projects, and not just sort of like randomly blasting like 35,000 people or something in a newsletter or something. So the good news is that while I've been talking about quick bills, and we know about the quick bills happening in Soma and Tenderloin, there are actually quick bills planned for the Bayview as well. That is coming out of a lot of the community engagement that's happened in the last couple of years with the community-based transportation plan. One of them is for sections of Bayshore Boulevard, which is super, super exciting. So I know that we talk about quick bills downtown, but those are happening throughout the city. The second thing I'll call out is that a lot of our opportunities to get things in the ground quicker elsewhere throughout, the outer neighborhoods. I'm someone who lives in Outer Sunset, so I get it. And we need to be creative. So a lot of those opportunities are tied to development. So one of the reasons why I've been tracking Balboa Reservoir for like forever, since before it was even the Balboa Reservoir project, is because I have dreams for Ocean Avenue. And I don't think we're ever going to just be able to change the entire corridor, but if we could get, adjacent paths alongside that development, those are the kinds of way we have to be creative. And the other way we're creative is park space. So Kristen has been doing incredible work working with Rec Park, which can be usually either understaffed or just reticent to do anything transportation or bike related. They've been working on Lake Merced to Twin Peaks to Stern Grove to obviously our continued push to expand car-free space in Golden Gate Park. I think those are the ways that we can be really creative. The last thing I'll say, I know y'all got feelings about bike coalition endorsements. I will say that in 2020, there is a really big November 2020 elections for a lot of different reasons, but locally here in San Francisco, we will be having a new District 7 supervisor. So regardless of endorsements, I would really encourage you to pay attention. I think we've seen that when we have a bike-friendly supervisor, we can get so much in the ground. And our current District 11 supervisor, Asha Safai, is up for re-election, and we have also seen that when someone is up for re-election, we can maybe extract a few campaign promises or maybe a few things that they want to do before election day to win some more votes. So I would keep an eye on that for sure.
I am getting a little time pressure here, but I want to take at least one more. And Chris has somebody back there. Yeah? Great. Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Jen. Actually, I have two questions. I'll be quick. So about protected bike lanes, would you consider Oak Street as protected?
Depends on which part you're talking about. Most of it, no. But the contraflow part between Market and Grove Street, absolutely. Yes, that was a huge win, and then it deteriorates rapidly as you go north.
Right. So that's my gripe. Also, just so many cars park, not just dropping people off, park there, which is really, really irritating and dangerous.
Yes.
So is there anything we can do about that?
On Polk Street in particular, or citywide?
Well,
yeah.
Polk Street in particular, because I use it multiple times a week, but of course everywhere in the city.
I mean, I think one of the things you're hitting on is why we have shifted our focus so dramatically in the past few years to building physically separated and protected bike lanes, because if it's possible for somebody to park their car somewhere, they will, whether it's legal or not. And we could have enforcement resources triple, quadruple what they are right now, and we still wouldn't be able to consistently cite people who are parking illegally. So it does come back to me to that, the prime importance of physical separated infrastructure, and that's why we keep on talking about protected bike lanes and the quality of what we're building. When it comes to enforcement, I know there are a lot of feelings around the kind of job MTA is doing and where they're doing enforcement. Janice mentioned Mayor Breed's pledge, Bike to Work Day, of 20 miles of new protected bike lanes across the city in 2 years. She also pledged to increase blocked bike lane enforcement as part of that. And so far we haven't seen that promise or pledge being met consistently. The data that we do have shows that sometimes there's consistent enforcement where on our Vision Zero corridors, for instance, where we know that people are being hit and injured, but that blocked bike lane enforcement is not what it needs to be yet. And on corridors like Valencia Street, on Polk Street, the Embarcadero, all the places where we are in the process of trying to get better infrastructure in the ground. In the meantime, we need there to be more consistent and reliable enforcement. So we are working with MTA and the parking control officers because it's a non-moving violation. The people that are called PCOs, parking control officers, and those little buggies, they're the ones that do the citation work. And to be able to deploy their resources in a way that's driven by data, and I know there are members and folks here who are passionate about that and have done volunteer work around that, welcome those efforts. The more data we have, the better to inform where the city's putting its resources. Okay.
I have a
okay, sorry, second. Yeah, okay.
About the enforcement, is it the police or the MTA?
So MTA, the parking control officers, can cite people for non-moving violations. So illegal parking, double parking, blocking a bike lane, blocking a sidewalk. Moving violations have to be the police department, SFPD, the traffic unit. Yeah.
Anyhow, so I just discovered there's a tool. Some member actually, it's a current candidate for the board, Stephen.
Yeah, the Safe Lane Project.
Right.
I bet we're going to hear a little bit more about that in a minute.
I haven't tried to use it. I haven't figured out how to use it on my phone yet.
Okay.
I'm very excited.
Great, yes, and I'm sure Stephen will be happy to talk to you about that after we're done with the candidate form. Okay. Okay, I know we're a little bit over. I see somebody that really wants to ask a question up there. We'll just keep it. I'll try to keep my answer brief because then I want to bring the candidates up.
This coincides.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Is there an effort to increase the fines for double parking to the point that's more prohibitive for people to double park than it is to pull up to a colored zone? And secondly, if we can get that, can those additional funds not go into like a general fund for the city, but for things that the bike, for bicycle improvements?
Yeah, I'd want to be thoughtful when we think about the level of fines and citations, and when we talk about kind of a monetary piece to enforcement. First of all, for professional drivers that consistently block the bike lane, UPS, FedEx,
Uber.
Employees that are actually, if their companies think if their companies say they're employees, the company would pay the fine right now. And what we know about Uber and Lyft is, yes, their drivers are employees, but no, Uber and Lyft are not paying their double parking fines like FedEx and UPS drivers are. So that's the distinction I'm trying to make here, is that for certain professional drivers, that's not going to make as much of a difference. Then I also want us to be cognizant. I think we have done a lot of work recently around financial justice and ability to pay, and the impact that high fines have on somebody losing their driver's license, on having their car repossessed. Certainly, double parking is illegal. It needs to be reduced. But when we look at those fines, is there a way, rather than just increasing them across the board, can we look at ability to pay? Can we look at some more progressive means to assess fines for parking? And we would be supportive of that, but I would have some real questions about across-the-board citation increases.
Can you make it so that the fine is more prohibitive to double park than it is to pull up to a red zone or a driveway or these?
Yeah, I think we're getting a little bit into the weeds of what our citation structure is, but again, I think if we're looking at a fine and fee structure, for us, the first thing would be that there'd have to be some sense of financial justice and parity as part of that. And then, I hadn't thought honestly about a different fine for a red zone violation versus a bike lane violation, but it's something to consider. Yeah. Okay, I want to get the board candidates up here. Thank you all for your questions. I know this was a quick and back and forth. And I really do appreciate so many new folks who I haven't heard from before in forums like this being able to ask questions. Okay, so on to the final part of our forum here. Our board candidates. The San Francisco Bicycle Coalition has a 15-member, all-volunteer member elected board. And if I could just quick ask our board members to identify themselves by waving or raising their hands. Thank you to our board for your service. So, voting in our board happens annually. Every year, about half of the board is up for election to 2-year terms. Today, our board election began January 22nd. You should have received an email in your inbox for the address we have on file for you. If you haven't seen it, just do a search. The subject line is Vote Now, and check your spam filter if that's something you have set up aggressively. But voting will end Tuesday, February 4th, so you have almost 2 weeks to vote at 9:59 Pacific. And as part of this elections process, we want to offer our candidates many opportunities to communicate with you members. And one of those ways is in person this evening. We're also videoing this so that folks who can't make it tonight, members who are interested in hearing from candidates, can go online and listen to their statements. So we are going to invite folks up one at a time in alphabetical order by last name. Each candidate will have 2 minutes. Melissa will be helping enforce that, so please respect Melissa's guidance so we can have equal time for all of our candidates. And the first person I want to invite up is Robin Abad. So Robin, if you could make your way up here. And then just so we're in order and we can minimize some of the back and forth time, Stephen Braich will be up next, and then Constance will be on deck after that. All right, so take it away, Robin.
All right. Thank you, Brian. How's everybody doing tonight? Super inspired by all of the progress that we've heard about in 2019. So, my name's Robin Abad Alcabillo,
and I'm really excited to be running for the board again this upcoming cycle. Over the last 2 years, I've served on your board, for one of those years as your board treasurer, and that is building on 4 prior years of experience I have as a board treasurer with another nonprofit serving LGBTQ youth. So besides having deep experience serving on executive committees and on nonprofit governance boards, I also have a nonprofit background myself. So I know what it takes to be part of a team that runs an advocacy organization with integrity, and I take my duties of care and loyalty very, very seriously as somebody charged with fiduciary oversight of your coalition. And I'd like to continue serving the Bicycle Coalition with those principles of stewardship in mind. Currently, a little bit about what I currently do is that I work in urban planning and policy for the city of San Francisco, and my main focus there is in issues of mobility and open space. So I work with a broad range of organizations, both governmental and community organizations, as a consequence, I know how infrastructure projects are planned, I know how they're designed, I know how they're funded, I know how they're implemented. And so I want to continue serving this organization and all of you with that knowledge and those relationships in mind. Finally, I just wanted to emphasize that I am personally very passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I think we heard some really compelling numbers about what our membership currently looks like, and I know that we're all here because we want to transform that experience and we want to make bicycling more accessible to everyone and have a more sustainable mobility future for everyone in our city, regardless of your gender or your economic background, your sexuality, your ethnicity, certainly. And we know that being able to get around your city in a healthy fashion is really, really important for everyone. So, thank you for this opportunity to speak a little bit to you guys. I'll be around later.
Thanks, Robin. Okay, Stephen, come on down. And then Constance, you're going to be after Stephen, and then Esther is up after Constance. Okay, great.
Thanks, Brian. Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen. And I'm running for the board because there are way too many people in this town that are scared to get on a bicycle. I believe that a bicycle should be the safest, fastest, most economical way for anybody to get across this town. And we have far too many people who are just terrified of the notion or think it's just for people that are the small portion of our community that is fearless. And and I know that the only way we're going to get more people on bikes is to convince them that they'll be safe when they do so. And to get people to feel safe, we must build a connected, real network of protected bike lanes across this entire city that virtually eliminates the possibility of people getting hurt. And when I say protected bike lane, I'm not talking about a splash of green paint and some plastic sticks spaced 20 feet apart. I'm talking about real, legit, fortified bike lanes that are separated from vehicle traffic that are impossible to drive into. As some of you may know, since last April, I've been building the Safe Lanes project. It's been helping us record bike lane violations, and since August, us together, have sent over 6,000 reports to the city of San Francisco. And while we're using that data to highlight the issues that are on Valencia and Embarcadero and across the city wide, we're also using the data to help the SFMT understand flaws in the designs that they're putting into the ground. But where the real power of Safe Lanes lies is that all of you can see the data today on that website. And I'm building tools that will help you take that data to your district supervisors and pressure them to get safety improvement projects in the ground. We at the Bike Coalition, we're 10,000 members strong. And my vision is to build tools that can just arm us to the teeth and amplify our voice so that we are the roar of 100,000 people. And if I'm on this board, I will ensure that every campaign that goes out the door will have the data it needs to be successful. I just want to say, I love riding a bike in this town, and I love riding a bike with all of you, whether it be Butter Lap, or Bike Party, or Critical Mass, or Pride, when we do Pride, or the recent stuff we've been doing with People Protected. And I think everybody should have that experience. So let's make that happen. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I'm going to invite Constance Cavalles up. Esther Gallagher's next, and then Audrey, you'll be after Esther.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Constance Cavalles. That's she, her, hers. I've been a Bicycle Coalition for more than 10 years now. And I'm running for the board as part of the Ubiquity slate. So I started riding a bike in San Francisco during the time of the bicycle injunction, when bicycle improvements were literally prohibited on our streets. I'm sure that some of you remember that. It was really horrible. But in the face of that adversity, the Bicycle Coalition really continued to build strong membership. And I think we've worked very hard to try to make up for that lost time, increasing not only the quantity, but also the quality, and as Janice had mentioned, the pace at which we're making changes on our streets today. And I have been very proud to be part of this organization that has been very steadfast in their advocacy in making the streets stronger, safer for everybody by focusing on the bicycle as a viable means of transportation. Increasingly, we've also seen the Bicycle Coalition shift their efforts to be more deliberate about welcoming or including different populations of bike riders. And as a member, that is something that I applaud the effort for. As a board member, that's something that I would work very strategically to ensure we continue and grow, harness that power of a more collective voice to make sure that we have equitable access to these safer improvements that we're making on our streets. I care very deeply about healthy and sustainable transportation options, not just for our communities, but for the planet at large. And I think this, with my professional skill set, do make me a good candidate for this board. I have experience working in both the public and nonprofit sectors, creating and improving public spaces for a diverse group of communities. I have extensive experience working as a staff member with different nonprofit boards. Wow. Okay.
2 minutes goes fast.
It does.
Thank you, Constance. I'm going to invite Esther Gallagher up next. Audrey, you're after Esther, and then Marie, you'll be after Audrey.
Well, I don't have all those really super fancy credentials, but I've lived in San Francisco since 1992. I'm a grandmother. I'm a menopausal grandmother. I think there should be at least one of us on the board to represent all the women who would like to not be afraid to bicycle. I think we have amazing resources in terms of who's already on the board and who's running for the board, and I think that's fantastic. I would like there to be maybe a longer range view, past and future, if we can build that in, and that's why I'm running for the board. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Esther. I'm going to invite Audrey Harris up next. After Audrey is Marie, and then Jean is after Marie.
Take it away. Hi, everybody. Thanks. I hope you're enjoying all the information. I know I am blown away by all the programmatic progress that the coalition has made, and I hope to contribute to that. But just a little bit about myself. I'm running this year specifically because I want to add to the advocacy of the bike as a means of joy, of fun, of freedom, because you have the choice to be more sustainable, and biking is just more practical sometimes, you know? I'm here to help and advocate on behalf of the delivery of projects, just like Robin works for the city. I also know the types of conversations that need to happen to really advocate at all levels for projects and policies. And then really, I know I'm here to really advocate for a safe space for people who ride bikes, but don't always feel that they feel safe because of negative stigmas that are placed upon them for various reasons. It's not fun when those microaggressions are called upon you while you're riding, right? But a little bit more about my background. I work for the city as a transportation planner, where I manage a program that works with developers and property owners to really put the onus on them to provide sustainable transportation amenities, whether it's showers and lockers at the work site, or transit subsidies, or extra bike parking. That's what I do, and I hope to continue to do that work with the coalition. And
Really, in addition to that planning, a lot of my focus is on racial and social equity, whether that's through policy development or implementation and community outreach and engagement. And in addition to that, I really hope to bring my leadership skills in my labor union to really hear voices and to kind of advocate for that. And I thank you for all your supports. And remember, equity first. Everybody wins.
Thank you so much, all of you. I have Marie Jonas up. Jean Gao is next after Marie, and then Manoj, you will be after Jean. Great.
I feel like a professor. This is very exciting. Members, hi. Thank you all for being here and for being members. My name is Marie Jonas, and for the past 2 years, I've been honored to serve on the board of this amazing organization, and I'd like to continue. Like all of you, I am passionate about bikes. They changed my life for the better. I believe deeply that the bicycle is a tool for transformative change, whether it be climate change or community. We need more bicycles in the world. And we need them to be a norm, not an exception, and we need everyone to feel welcome on a bike. This organization, through its incredible staff and committed members, has done phenomenal work. This year we saw it in this presentation through Better Market, the Better Market Project, and we're also seeing it through the outreach to underserved communities. But we all know the change is just beginning, and to continue to move forward, this organization needs a board that it can rely on. And what does that mean? It means that we need, as board members, to be #1 volunteers. We need to be at Bike to Work Day, showing up and making contacts for financial support so that we can pay our staff a living wage and make sure there's a roof over their head when they do their advocacy work. I will be there and have been there and look forward to continue doing that work. And it also means taking seriously our oversight responsibilities. I bring my background as an attorney who represents nonprofits, who has an understanding of best practices and our fiduciary obligations. It's not always glamorous, but it's core to what boards do, and I'm happy to serve in this role and would be honored to continue. I'm writing with Ubiquity with a transformative idea of bikes everywhere for everyone, and we would love your support.
Thank you, Marie. Up next is Jean Gao, and then Manoj, and then Tyler will be after Manoj.
Hi, my name is Jean Gao, and my pronouns are she, her. I've been a member and volunteer for over 10 years, and I'm honored to serve as the current board president. I'm running again because I believe the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition has a key role to play in providing sustainable transportation choices to our community. But in order to do that, to make the big changes necessary to fight not just climate change, but to change our car culture, we need to build our movement. And for me, that really means listening to everyone in our community, regardless of whether they bike or not. Because to me, everyone could potentially be a person who rides a bike. And it's our job on the board and as part of the organization to build our movement and get more people on their bikes. And we need to have empathy for people, because only by understanding them and understanding their lives can we really make these changes and bring them along. I am forever grateful to this organization for the space they have created for me, not just on the roads, but in our community. I hope to pay that forward to all of you and to all our future bicyclists. I am proud to be recommended by the board and excited to be running with a group of like-minded folks at Ubiquity. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Up next, we have Manoj Madhavan, and then Tyler, you'll be after Manoj, and then I will close out by reading a statement from Danielle. Okay, Manoj.
Hi everyone, you have amazing candidates for the board already. I'm Manoj, and I'm super excited to be here tonight to have this opportunity to potentially serve on your board. I've been a huge fan of how active the San Francisco Bike Coalition and the members here have been through, to make San Francisco a better biking environment. And as a kid growing up in India, I think biking was a sense of freedom for me. So it's just those memories that I actually bring with me when I come and ride my bike in San Francisco, and it's probably what influenced me to become a transportation planner. And I have about 15 years of experience right now being a transportation planner. I used to work with Robin and Audrey here for the City Planning Department. I worked on 2 different projects, Safer Market Street and Better Market Street, 6 months of my life and 6 years of my life. So a lot of experience in transportation planning. Currently I'm serving as the Director of Transportation Demand Management for the Warriors, Go Dubs, at Chase Center, and I'm trying to ensure that most trips coming to Chase Center are through sustainable modes. If elected to the board, I would like to ensure that every kid in San Francisco gets that same sense of freedom that I had as a kid riding a bike around in India. And I'm riding with you, Bikequity, as well. Please vote for me and my teammates to serve you on the board. The goals are very simple. There are 2 words in that goal: ubiquity. We would like to see bikes everywhere, and equity. We would like to work more with disadvantaged communities to actually build better bike connections. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manoj. Up next, I'd like to bring up Tyler Morris, and then I will wrap it up on behalf of Danielle.
It is so great to see everybody out here tonight. Each year, this membership body keeps growing. We power our bikes, and the bicycle empowers us. I spend my day earning a living, walking in, convincing businesses that the power of the bicycle, pedal power logistics, is what wins in an urban setting. I'm not going to stand here and tell you guys that I'm going to bring you way more protected bike lanes. That's Brian and the staff's job. As a board candidate, what I'm here to offer is to take my business skills, to take the almost 100,000 vehicle trips that I have removed off of San Francisco streets over the years and replaced with a bicycle, and say to Brian and the staff, what resources, what questions, what roadblocks are you at? Tell us what you need, and we will come up with a way to get that. We all can agree that there's nothing better than riding a bicycle, especially when you get to ride it in San Francisco. 2 bridges, so many hills, the descents, it's the best. So anything that we can do as a team to solve human-made problems by humans, that is what the board is here to do, and that's what I'm here to offer as my assistance as a candidate. Tyler Morris, your bike advocate, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tyler. Finally, we have a 10th candidate for the board who could not be here tonight, so I have offered to read a statement on her behalf. My name is Danielle Tho, and I am sorry I can't make the meeting tonight. I sit on the San Francisco County Transportation Authority Citizens Advisory Committee, which meets at the same time. In addition to my experience on the CAC, I previously served on the Caltrain Bicycle Advisory Committee. I will bring these and other experiences in community engagement and policy development to the Bike Coalition Board. Great strides have been made over the past few years to get big wins for bike safety and better infrastructure. The Bike Coalition's mission going forward must be to ensure that these individual wins become part of a larger policy priority shift in San Francisco. Transforming these wins into a shift in the mindset of how we allocate road space in our city requires engaging more diverse members of the bike community, those who haven't previously been engaged, and bringing into the fold those who may begin biking with increasingly safe infrastructure. More voices in the room will help the Bike Coalition to better serve the entire city. I look forward to building a more safe and equitable bike community while serving on your board. And with that, that wraps up our candidate statement portion of the evening. I want to thank all of our candidates. A round of applause for all of them. They are all by definition members, and they are running for a volunteer job. And I just want to acknowledge that putting yourself out there as a candidate can be a stressful experience. So I want to give everyone credit and gratitude for your willingness to step forward and do that. Okay, as we close tonight, I want to say one last thank you to UCSF, and I want to thank the great staff that I get to work with. I know I introduced the new folks, but all of the staff and the folks that helped put this on, really pleasure to work with all of you. Thank you.